Hello everyone, and welcome to Yoshi 1 Kenobi's Replicating Ring deck. In this deck, we're playing Replicating Ring, which is a mana rock, and 8 turns after you've put it into play, it's going to generate 8 replicated rings, which are more mana rocks. So in this deck, we want to take 8 turns with Replicating Ring on the battlefield to get these ring copies, and then we want to be able to make use of that mana. So first of all, how do we reach that 8th turn? Well, we're going to take some extra turns, so we'll use Alrund's Epiphany, as well as Discontinuity, in order to take some bonus turns to kind of cheat out the clock of Replicating Ring. In the same way, we're going to be using Midnight Clock. Since we're accumulating counters on mana rocks, this serves a similar purpose to Replicating Ring, and once we hit the 12th hour on the Midnight Clock, we shuffle our graveyard and our hand to our deck and draw 7 new cards, which should put us in an almost unlosable position at that point. So, we plan on taking extra turns. We plan on getting access to obscene amounts of mana. How do we win the game from there? And the answer is Tergrid's Lantern. Don't mistake this deck as a God of Fright deck. No. That's not what it is. It's a Tergrid's Lantern deck. Because when you take extra turns, you get extra free activations of the Lantern. When you get the replicated rings, you get extra activations of the Lantern by paying 4 mana to untap it. So the 8 rings that come from the replicating ring means 2 more extra activations of Tergrid's Lantern, often ending the game on that turn, or very few turns afterwards. As for the rest, we're playing 2 Teferi Master of Time because we like taking extra turns and it fits with our team. And then we're playing a couple of draw spells and Behold the Multiverse, Maze Mind Tome, as well as a pretty standard removal control package, 2 Extinction Events, 3 Shadows Verdicts, 2 Bloodchief Thirst, and 2 Heartless Act, as well as a pair of Elspeth's Nightmare, simply to ensure that we stay alive long enough to hit the replicated ring turn, in which case we just Lantern, and end the game. Note that Lantern really is our only win con. Well, that and the bird tokens from Alrund's Epiphany. If they get the ping and you get enough extra turns, the damage does stack up. And that is Replicating Time, the Replicating Ring deck that makes use of Tergrid's Lantern and bonus turns. It leads to some pretty interesting games, so let's see this deck in action with some games. We are playing Replicating Ring on MTG Arena Standard against Legendary 97. Well, this is awkward. I'll keep, but 5 swamps into Midnight Clock Replicating Ring is pretty awkward. Since we're on the play, I think we can afford to keep. The ring will allow us to play the clock. And when the clock sounds midnight, we shall win the game. Opponent's playing knights. Haven't seen that in a while. Which will force us to find some kind of removal. Mardu Knights. Rally the rank. Calling human, probably. Yes. And nope, I don't want that. Discontinuity. Play the ring. Start taking up that ring. Opponent cashes in Giganta. I'll take 3. I think we scry a second time here. Tergrid. We do need a good Tergrid. But I would have preferred removal. Let's play the clock. So we get to draw with the Maze Mind Tome. Showdown of the Scowls. Opponent's doing a bunch of scary things. But slow scary things. Except for that 3-2 that keeps on poking. We have a bunch of turns now. So I'll play Tergrid's Lantern. Pass the turn back. Now the opponent gets to flood the board, put a ton of powerful stuff in play, and then we get to take a bunch of turns. The opponent goes after our lantern. That's unacceptable, opponent. You should not be allowed to go after the lantern. Another showdown of the Scalds. There are tactics in play. I'll take 5 from the Venerable Knight. But we'll draw a card and gain 4 life. Ring clock tick. 3, 4, 5, 6. We do need another blue source for Alrund's for Discontinuity. Yes, so leave Discontinuity. I'll use Alrund's Epiphany to gain a turn. Pick up our clock and our ring. Alright, we have Discontinuity. We'll poke you with the birds. And then we'll pass the turn. Midnight clock triggers. That is fine. I want Showdown of the Scald to trigger. Right after the draw. Resolve Showdown. Resolve Showdown. And now we end the turn. Countering your Wordy Knight and making all the cards exiled with Showdown of the Skulls go away. Okay, you do get a Black Lance Paragon. That's reasonable. Then we'll take the next turn. Taking up our clock and ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Temple of the Sea. Let's see what we can find. That's not what we want. Ping you with the birds. Pass the turn. Let's just end the turn right now. Actually, no. Midnight clock. Then we end the turn. Not letting you draw anything. Dire tactics. Killing off a bird. That's fine. Our stuff ticks up. Alright. 1, 2. Let's go for the Heartless Act on the Black Lance Paragon. And then 1, 2. Yeah, we'll use the mana on the Midnight Clock, so I'll just pass the turn here. We'll get access to full group of cards. So if the opponent can cast 3 spells and kill our bird, we'll lose the game. That's 2 spells. Okay, the opponent didn't put the counter on the Venerable Knight, so you should be good here. Alright, we're in very good shape. As we have no cards in hand, and we're facing a huge army, but this is almost over. Oh, opponent smittens. Never mind, that actually hurts quite a bit. And we'll finish ticking up the Midnight Clock. We draw 7 new cards. Replicating Ring goes up to 7. We definitely want to Alrund's Epiphany here. Get the extra turn. I think we want to Tergrid? Just to get one more tick of the lantern? Yes, the lantern's back. Ping you. Alright. We get an Extinction Event. Even, odd. Probably as we kill our birds if we do that. Let's go and behold the multiverse. See what we can find. These Mind Tomes, not what we're looking for. We're looking for Shadow's Verdict. We found Shadow's Verdict. So we'll attack. Shadow's Verdict. Ping you with Lantern. Gotta love that infinite mana. Well, the mana from the Replicating Ring. And so we do it by taking enough turns and making enough mana with a Replicating Ring. We are playing Replicating Ring on MTG Arena Standard against Taco Insanity. Alright, we have 3 lands, Replicating Ring, a pair of Time Walks, and a Heartless Act. So we'll keep this. It's actually fairly decent. Open up with the castle. Opponent is playing white weenies. Alright, I'll pass the turn back. Not too afraid of the Selfless Savior. I'm afraid with what's about to follow. Namely a Seasoned Hollowblade. Let's get rid of the Selfless Savior. And spare ourselves a point of damage. Could always be relevant. Then we'll play the Replicating Ring. And the clock starts now. Who's got the fastest clock now, opponent? I'm pretty sure it's you. By multiple turns. But that's okay. Because all we need is Shadow's Verdict. No! Not the Replicating Ring. That's unacceptable. We're trying to do some fun shenanigans here. You have no right to come in and use Skyclave Apparition. Well, unless you don't have Skyclave Apparitions for the Tergrid's Lantern. I'll show you a faster clock. Faceless Haven. If the opponent activates the Haven, they can swing for 9. Sorted around. Okay. Equipping the Skyclave Apparition. Hitting us for 7. Alright, well you take 3. Or sack the Skyclave Apparition and get it back into your hand. One of the two. And we draw the Shadow's Verdict. Just in time. Actually, could have been a little better because that Castle Lock went entered tap. Oh, we'll foretell Alrund's Epiphany. Then pass the turn back. We're dead on board, but maybe the opponent's not going to activate the Faceless Haven. Sentinel's Eyes. Make that 8. I'll Seed of Life's Bounty. We're alive. Of course we'll die to the Faceless Haven next turn, but that's small details. Activate the Lantern. In response to that attack. Down to 2. The Shadow's Verdict. Because I do value staying alive quite a bit. Of course, we still died of Faceless Haven. Opponent gives protection from black to the Skyclave Apparition, which does absolutely nothing. And we get, no, actually we get a 3/3 off of the Skyclave Apparition, so we're not dead on board. It's actually a pretty good blocker because it would trade with the Faceless Haven, and our opponent is short on lands. I forgot there for a moment that Skyclave Apparition was not just exile target permanent, convert mana cost 4 or less. Opponent casts Alvar. God of Battle. I really want to play the Replicating Ring here, but if the opponent goes Faceless Haven, activate, attack, we lose the game. So we're gonna take up the Lantern, and Alrund's Epiphany. No attacks. Alright, we can go Ring Ring. Or just one, which gives us 2 activations of the Lantern. Also gives us access to our second blue source. One's the responsible move. You gotta keep the birds on the fence. And I think we're winning this now. Double strike's good, but without the trample, it's not quite as powerful. We get a block with birds. Opponent activates the Faceless Haven. Opponent moves to combat. Activate the Lantern. Opponent sacks the sword. Alright. Place our blocks. Giant Killer. In response, we'll untap our Lantern and ping you. Alright, I'll play an island. Do we have enough? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can afford to play another ring. Lantern tick. Move to combat. Hit you with a bird. End the turn. Now I want the Giant Killer to tap so that the bird can get in for another attack. That's actually good enough. And then we throw the good game. And we stop time. And suddenly our bird is lethal. Untap Lantern. Ping you. Discard a card. Untap Lantern. Ping you. Sack Halvar. Clear land and pass the turn back. Because the opponent still has the Faceless Haven. And we have the blocker for it. Do not accidentally click no block. Whew. That was a very close game. Used every single one of our resources, every single one of our ticks. But we got there with Tergrid's Lantern. And making use of a little bit of the rings, but if the first one didn't get exiled, we probably would have hit the 8 turns. But it did, so we used those as mana stones. Which is still good, but we really won on Tergrid's Lantern and turns. We are playing Replicating Ring on MTG Arena Standard against Disco Fervor. We really need like a Hazaret display icon for Disco Fervor. Alright, we'll keep this. We're going first, only tap lands, but Temple of the Seat will fetch us a swamp. Or a clear water pathway, whichever. Opponent is playing Obosh, so Teamer Adventure is the likely scenario. Edgewall Innkeeper. I'll play the Castle Logvein, and next turn we'll bring Elspeth's Nightmare to reality, where Elspeth's Nightmare is to go to an inn where the Innkeeper is dead. Because she probably likes her beer and stuff. Innkeeper swings at us. Opponent foretells an Alrund's Epiphany. We draw the swamp a turn too late, but the Elspeth's Nightmare is good enough to make her nightmare come true and kill that Innkeeper. After all, this little monster is about to go eat Elspeth, and that Innkeeper seems a little less defenseless. A little more defenseless. Less defensive. Yes, less defense. Now let's get rid of that Alrund's Epiphany, as it is quite scary. And the opponent wants to go for a ton of turns. So do we, as we'll play Teferi, Master of Time. Draw a card, discard a card.
I'm getting the hang of this.
Demon Bolt. That's different.
Like seconds
Let's get rid of Shadow's Verdict. Wasn't expecting Demon Bolt. Opponent can cast Bone Crusher Giant or buy Obosh. You shall exile your graveyard. Then we'll play Tergrid's Lantern, which our opponent will bounce back with Brazen Borrower and ping us with Bone Crusher Giant. But we had to force that Brazen Borrower out at some point. Here comes the first part of my foretold prophecy. And wait for it. Here comes the second part of the foretold prophecy. But the opponent will still pay 3 life. Lightning Bolt to the face. That's not good. Second Innkeeper saves the day. Opponent now has mana for the big bad dragon. And we get a Lantern. And we get to foretell an Alrund's Epiphany. Here comes the Goldspan Dragon. Opponent takes the next turn. I'll take 6. 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll take 11 this turn. Which is quite scary. And the opponent has a lot of permanents to sacrifice. And we do not have a board wipe that will get us out of this. So we need to take all the turns. And I don't think there's enough. We're down to 1. Opponent plays a Brazen Borrower, draws a card. Alright, well, Lantern you. Alrund's Epiphany. We'll start with the obvious. A land buys us another Alrund's Epiphany, another turn of Lantern. Move to combat. Hit you for 2. You're not 2 ticks of the Lantern, as we take an extra turn. Land. Alright, well, let's begin with Lantern you. We have 2 more Lantern ticks. Alright, we have to think about this one. So the opponent doesn't have enough to cash an Obosh and cast it. We can untap the Lantern once. Ping the opponent. The opponent should sack a permanent. Otherwise they die to the birds. Can do that twice, forcing the opponent to sacrifice 2 permanents. And then we'll have to chump with the 4 birds. But we're still alive, and then we get 3 Lantern ticks. I think that's what we go for. Lantern you. Untap. Lantern you. Getting rid of your birds. Passing the turn back. Our life is holding by a thread. Literally a thread. Any burn spell kills us. Alright. Well, we bought some mana time. Opponent attacks. Makes gold. We hold the fort with our army of birds. Opponent should buy Obosh to have an extra card. Alright. Innkeeper. Well, it all begins with a Lantern tick. Opponent sacks the treasure. We have enough mana to cast Tergrid, but we'll die to the Edgel Innkeeper. We can untap the Lantern twice, opponent will sack 2 things. I'll just go Tergrid. And pass the turn. We're so close. Opponent casts Obosh. Opponent moves to attack. Decides to attack with everything. Untap the Lantern. Ping you with the Lantern. We need the opponent to sack something. Actually, no, there's just no way out. We'll block the Innkeeper for no apparent reason, as we lose this awesome game. We got so close. So close. Please disregard that -15. That does not tell you just how close this game was. We are playing Replicating Ring on MTG Arena Standard, as our opponent, the Beastmaker, is sure to be playing some Vivians. Alright, that's keepable. A lot of draw spells, and you can't go wrong. As long as you live long enough to resolve the card draw, then you're in good shape. This is not an indication that I will survive long enough. It's an indication that we'll have to scry aggressively with Maze Mind Tome so we get to sack it for the 4 life. As you see this blue mage desperately trying to protect himself with a book. It better be a hard book, because these critters breathe fire. Actually, they're kind of made out of fire, being elemental dogs. Opponent attacks. We'll scry that to the bottom. Time Walk's not the best against red deck wins. Play the island, end the turn. You get to land an Extinction Event next turn, especially if our opponent plays Anax. Our opponent does not play Anax. Then it depends on what we draw with the Maze Mind Town. Ooh, Elspeth's Nightmare. Definitely playing that. Nightmare. Kill the robber of the rich. Robber of the rich. Bye. Alright, that is very positive for us. Especially since a turn 3 for red deck wins without doing anything. Or casting a Bone Crushing Giant. Feels quite slow. This is going to be an Extinction Event. Opponent plays the Shatter Skull Smashing. Rams us for 2. We all scry. Yes. I like lands. Elspeth's Nightmare. Definitely Embercleave. Play the land. Don't have enough, so we Extinction Event. We're odd. We're in good shape. These Scorching Dragonfire that our opponent's holding back aren't very effective. They'll get to kill birds. And that's pretty much it. Opponent decides to maximize value, but that gives us time, and I like time. Never mind. Opponent casts the Bone Crusher Giant. We will gain our 4 life and take the last scry. Swamp. 5. I do like a swamp here. Exiling our opponent's graveyard. Not the best, but it's something. So here we probably want to cast the Midnight Clock. And foretell the Multiverse. Which will cast during our opponent's turn. We can take a hit for 5. As long as the opponent doesn't miraculously draw Embercleave, we should be in good shape. Torbrand. Alright, on the scale of bad to terrible, that one's bad. So draw 2. I'll scry 2, draw 2. Looking for an answer. Are getting turns. Let's go Alrund's Epiphany. Make some birds. Shadow's Verdict is pretty good, but it doesn't get rid of Torbrand. I think we just take the extra turn here. One, 2, 3. Take up the Midnight Clock. That'll resolve. And then we'll end the turn. Oops. Sorry. That's a misplay. I needed to let the Midnight Clock tick up one more. Alright, well, I'll play this on blue. Move to combat, hit you with birds. Pick up the clock. Pass the turn. I'll let the clock resolve this time, then take an extra turn. Teferi, Master of Time. I think we have to cast Teferi. Opponent gets to cash one of the Scorching Dragon Fire on Teferi.
I will protect the multiverse.
So we'll use the plus.
This was humbling. Don't worry, I'll think of something.
And I think that that's the end of our run. Because both threats are lethal. And unfortunately, Shadow's Verdict is sorcery. What are the odds that the opponent doesn't attack? None. Put a clock counter and lose the game. And that's how the matchup is played against Mono Red. We are playing Replicating Ring on MTG Arena Standard against John the Roth. Yeah, I'll keep this. Little short on mana, but worst case scenario we'll foretell Behold the Multiverse and then we'll cast it on turn 3. Which should help us hit our third land, and then Replicating Ring will act as our fort. Then it becomes easy peasy, winning the game from there. That's different. Foulmire Knight. Opponent's playing the Death Touch deck? That makes sense. Temple of the Seat. No, we need lands. Although Teferi, I do really like Teferi, Master of Time. But we need lands. So I will pass it down. Yeah, opponent's playing Death Touch. As I quickly made the assumption, well, let's go Replicating Ring. We're under no pressure. Let's get that ring clock started. Vengeful Reaper. That's even. So, well, Elspeth's Nightmare. Kill the Vengeful Reaper. And foretell, Behold the Multiverse. Finn, I've been expecting you. Alright, what do you got? Round true, Moss Viper, Lurus, and Hooded Blightfang. Okay. We get rid of Ram through. And I don't want you to keep on bringing back that Finn. So we're going to even playing field. If you know what I mean. Play this, pass the turn back. Our opponent's was starved on land. Here comes the Blightfang, which will be the occasion to cast our second Extinction Event. Take the damage. Behold the multiverse. That's too many lands. We'll probably draw some naturally. There it is. Exile your graveyard. No longer scared of Lurrus. Oh, I don't have a swamp in play. Let's take the odd one out. Nothing like spamming board wipes. Opponent casts the scary Moss Viper, as well as the Juju Blightblade. Don't really care. I think I'm going to use a removal spell anyways. Let's take out the Blightblade. Just to ensure we have a bit more time. Let's go for the Scry. Scry to bottom. And end the turn. We'll keep Bloodchief first for Lurrus. Opponent is running low on resources, so all we need is a Tergrid, and the game is ours. Ask and you shall receive. Famous keyword. And we'll pause the turn back. Even Lurrus can't save you now, opponent. Because we will drain your life away. Opponent discards the Ram True. We'll take an extra card off of Castle Lockvein. Shadow's Verdict. Alrund's Epiphany. Let's take an extra turn. Ping you with the Lantern. That's the magic of this deck. Take turns with the Lantern. Replicating Ring is almost there. Let's draw. Behold the multiverse. Midnight Clock. Sure. Let's play the Midnight Clock. Activate the Lantern. And ping you with a bird. Hooded Blightfang. Opponent drains us for 2. Drains us for 1. Sorry. We will block the Moss Viper. We'll put a Midnight counter on the Midnight Clock. And we have our rings. We are now the Lord of the Rings. Hit you with Bird. Shadow's Verdict. We will take no chance. And now we have some fun. Lantern. Untap Lantern. And the opponent sees how many times they're gonna get lanterned every turn and decides to rightfully resign. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe. It won't cost you any mana and it greatly helps to support this channel and keep the awesome videos coming. Until next time, may the fun be with you.